A lot of people don't know this about me, but for the longest time, I hated visiting Yellowstone. And Yellowstone is such a cool national park, but it can kind of be a miserable experience if you don't do things the right way. So today I want to talk to you not only about the worst part of Yellowstone National Park, but also how to avoid it. My name is Ash. I'm a former park ranger and the founder of Dirt in My Shoes. And yes, I know, I shouldn't say that I didn't like visiting Yellowstone. That seems really counterintuitive to my love of the national parks. But today I just want to talk about some expectations that you can set for your trip to Yellowstone. Again, I love this park now, but it has taken me many times of going back to really figure out how to avoid what I think is the worst thing about Yellowstone. So what is the worst thing about Yellowstone National Park? That, for me, hands down, is the traffic. And many of us probably know people, neighbors or friends or family, who've gone to Yellowstone and who have just said, it was okay. But, you feel like you're sitting in traffic a lot, you're circling a lot of parking lots, there's people everywhere, and that can really diminish your experience in Yellowstone. I know that happened for me, but luckily there are ways to avoid the traffic so that you have a really spectacular time in this park, so that you can find solitude, so that you can get the parking spots, so that you don't feel like you're just surrounded by people all the time. So Yellowstone basically has two different types of traffic. And one type is not as fun, and there's another type that's pretty fun. So let's talk about them both, and then I will tell you how to work your way around this. So the first type of traffic that Yellowstone has is the traffic that just has to do with crowding. This is the traffic that you'll sit in, as you're trying to get into the entrance stations. It's common to wait 45 minutes or an hour to be able to even just get into Yellowstone. And then once you get into Yellowstone, if you're visiting the busiest spots at the busiest times of day, then you will just be sitting. You'll be sitting and waiting for a parking spot to open up. People get pretty grumpy in there. Either you're not able to find parking or you're having to park really far away and walk. And it just can really make it kind of a bummer experience being in Yellowstone and seeing it that way. So that's one type of traffic, and that traffic is entirely avoidable. That's something that I've really paid attention to over the years, and as I've gone back to Yellowstone year after year after year, I've really dialed in what times I am willing to be at Old Faithful or Grand Prismatic or Canyon. There's a lot of really busy spots that I will not visit during certain times of day, and I just have a great experience in Yellowstone now. If you want to know what I do when I'm in Yellowstone, check out this Yellowstone itinerary on Dirt in My Shoes. I will link it in the video below. But this itinerary is a full hour-by-hour schedule, and I will show you when I go to certain places so that I don't just feel like I'm sitting in traffic all the time. Okay, so that first type of traffic is avoidable for the most part, just by being at certain places at certain times. And that will make your vacation in and of itself so much better. In general, for timing though, you're gonna wanna be, if you can avoid the hours of 9 to 3 in some of those busiest places, or if you can get into the entrance stations before 9 a.m., then you won't have to sit in line for an hour. If you can not go to Grand Prismatic from the hours of 9 to 3, then you won't just be miserably sitting there and trying to get a parking spot. So there are certain hours of the day that I just typically avoid all of those big, busy main spots in the park. And then I'll go out earlier in the morning or later in the afternoon and into the evening so that I can hit those spots still. And it's still great weather. It's still beautiful, but it's just so much less crowded. The second type of traffic that you'll find in Yellowstone is wildlife related. And this traffic can be the coolest experience of your life or excruciatingly painful. So let's talk about what happens when you get stuck in a traffic jam due to wildlife. So Yellowstone has a lot of wildlife, and probably one of the coolest experiences that you'll have in Yellowstone is seeing that wildlife. And a lot of times it's crazy, but you can see it from your car as you're driving around. You'll see animals on the side of the road or sometimes on the road, which is just so cool. But the problem is that sometimes people just get a little bit too excited to see these animals and they forget to pull off to the side of the road. A lot of people will just put on their hazards and then just sit their car in the middle of the road while they take pictures or while they get out. Sometimes they get out and just leave their car in the middle of the road. And so that's when those wildlife encounters get a little bit less fun when you end up sitting in traffic for a long time because people aren't pulling off of the road and you can't maneuver around them. So for example, I have been stuck. We got stuck a few years back. We went through the west entrance of Yellowstone and we were driving towards Madison. And this section of the park is notoriously known for having a lot of wildlife jams. Typically, you're not going to see like huge herds of wildlife or huge herds of bison when you're in this area. Usually it's just like one or two. Sometimes you'll get a few more. But people are just so excited to see these bison that they just stop in the middle of the road. So we've gotten stuck here anywhere from like an hour to 2 hours before, just sitting and waiting for people to get their picture of the one bison on the side of the road and then move on. So that part of it can be really excruciating. I actually have a friend who sat in traffic for 3.5 hours in one of these bison jams. And it wasn't a whole bunch of bison, it was just one that was keeping everybody from moving on. They were parking in the middle of the road, all of that. And so 3.5 hours, which can just not be fun. But on the flip side, I love seeing wildlife in Yellowstone, and I'm sure you're looking forward to that too. And so getting stuck in a bison jam can be really exciting, but what we like to do is we'll either get to the park early in the morning or we'll be there later in the evening where that really is the ideal time to see more wildlife anyway. And so we like to go out during those times, but there's much fewer cars on the road in the early morning or later evening hours. And so you'll see some really cool stuff, but you just won't get stuck there for an hour or two while everybody takes their pictures. So that's really nice. In fact, there was a time that we were driving from Mammoth down to Norris, and it was relatively early in the morning. It wasn't super early, but we passed by, there was a mama grizzly and her cub digging for roots right off the side of the road. And so we pulled off into a pull-off and we just watched them from our car, and there was only one other car there with us. It was crazy. It was one of the coolest wildlife sightings I've ever had. And we just shared it with one other car. And so timing it right and getting to the right places, not during the middle of the day, again, will really help in not elongating that traffic period that you're just sitting there and waiting to move forward. My favorite spot to go to get stuck in a bison jam is the Lamar Valley in the northern part of the park. So if that is super exciting to you, it is really highly likely that you'll get stuck in one up there. There's full herds of buffalo that just, they rule this area. And so they're just walking across the road whenever they want. We've had them run towards our car when we're up there. And there's just fewer people up there and everybody's so excited. And so you're inching along, but you're surrounded by buffalo. It's just a really cool experience. So if you want to get stuck in a bison jam, go to the Lamar Valley. You won't be stuck there for hours, but it might just be one of the coolest experiences you've ever had. So to recap, Yellowstone is now one of my top 5 national parks. I love this national park. But it didn't used to be that way. It didn't used to be that way until I figured out how to better navigate the traffic in this park. I do feel like the traffic is the worst thing about Yellowstone, but you can avoid it by being out earlier in the mornings or later in the evenings Try to avoid driving really far, long distances in the middle of the day because that will increase the likelihood of you getting stuck in traffic or not being able to find parking. So hopefully that helps. Again, if you need any additional help navigating Yellowstone, go to dirtandmyshoes.com. I have a lot of free resources there, and I have an hour-by-hour itinerary. I hope you love Yellowstone. Have a great time.